I'm 85 years old and my phone hasn't rung in 3 weeks. Not a single call. Not my children, not my grandchildren, not even a wrong number. 3 weeks of silence. And I sit here every day staring at that phone like it's going to suddenly remember it's supposed to connect me to the world. I have 6 people in my favorites list. My 2 daughters, my son, 3 grandchildren. I could call them. The phone works both ways, but I don't, because I'm terrified of what I'll hear in their voices. That slight pause, that "oh, it's Dad again" before they paste on the cheerful voice. 20 years ago, my house was loud. My wife Eleanor was alive. The TV was always on. She'd talk to me from the kitchen. The phone rang constantly. Neighbors dropping by. Grandkids running through. Noise. Beautiful, chaotic noise. Eleanor died 8 years ago. Stroke. Quick. I've had 8 years to get used to the silence. I'm not used to it. The silence started small. First, just Eleanor's voice missing. I'd make coffee and nobody to ask if I wanted cream. I'd watch the news and nobody to argue with. Small silences that added up. Then my son moved to California. Work opportunity, he said. Better for his family. I understood. Of course I understood. But California is 3 time zones away, which means when I'm eating dinner alone at 6 p.m., he's still at work. When I'm lying awake at 3 a.m., because old men don't sleep well, it's midnight there, and I can't call. My daughters, they live closer. Sarah's 40 minutes away. Jennifer's an hour. Close enough that I could see them any time, right? Except Sarah has 3 kids under 12. Jennifer works 60 hours a week at the hospital. They're busy. They have lives. I tell myself this every day. They're busy. It's not that they don't care. They're just busy. Sarah calls every Sunday, like clockwork, 11 a.m. We talk for exactly 12 minutes. I've timed it. She asks how I'm doing. I say, fine. She tells me about the kids' activities, soccer, piano, school projects. Then she has to go. Something always needs her attention. 12 minutes a week. That's what I get from my daughter who lives 40 minutes away. Jennifer calls less, maybe twice a month. Shorter calls. She's always at the hospital or just leaving. She sounds exhausted. I don't want to burden her. So when she asks how I am, I say fine, always fine, even when I'm not. My son, he video calls once a month. FaceTime, they call it. I hate it. I have to prop up the phone and make sure I'm sitting in good light, and I can see him, but he looks distracted, watching his kids in the background, and I feel like I'm interrupting his real life. We talk for maybe 15 minutes. He shows me the kids. They wave at Grandpa. They don't really know me. How could they? I've seen them in person twice in 3 years. 3 weeks ago, I decided to stop calling them first. I wanted to see how long it would take for them to notice. How long before one of them called just because. Not out of obligation. Not because it was Sunday. Just because they missed me. 3 weeks. That's how long. I know what you're thinking. Call them. Stop playing games. But you don't understand what it's like to be old and terrified that you're becoming a burden. Every time I call, I hear it. The politeness worse than rudeness. The patience that feels like pity. Last month I called Sarah on a Wednesday, not Sunday, Wednesday afternoon. I'd had a bad morning. Couldn't sleep the night before. Doctor's appointment that didn't go great. Nothing serious, just the usual decay of an 5-year-old body. But I felt lonely, so I called. She answered on the 4th ring. Dad, is everything okay? That's how she answered. Is everything okay? Because why else would I call on a Wednesday if something wasn't wrong? I said I just wanted to talk. She said, of course, but I could hear it in her voice. She was somewhere. She had something else she was supposed to be doing. We talked for maybe 5 minutes. Surface level, weather, her kids. Then she said she had to run, but she'd call me Sunday like always. I haven't called her since. That was 5 weeks ago. And you know what? She hasn't noticed. Sunday calls still come. Exactly 12 minutes. Exactly the same. The silence is loudest in the evenings. During the day I have routines. Coffee at 7 a.m. Read the paper. Watch the news. Make lunch. Walk if my knees cooperate. These fill the day with something resembling purpose. But evenings are brutal. That's when families gather. When people come home from work and ask about each other's days. When the phone should ring with someone saying, come over for dinner, or we're thinking of you. My phone doesn't ring in the evenings. It sits dark and silent while I pretend to watch television. I've started talking to myself out loud just to hear a voice. I'll make dinner and narrate. Heat up the soup. Get the blue bowl. Eleanor always liked this bowl. Talking to my dead wife like she's listening. Sometimes I leave the TV on all night, not watching, because the silence when I turn it off is too heavy. The voices create an illusion the house isn't empty. I've thought about getting a dog, something alive that would be happy to see me. But I'm 85. What happens to the dog when I die? My kids who barely call. No, a dog deserves better. Here's what nobody tells you about getting old. The silence isn't just external, it's internal too. I have thoughts, memories, stories, entire conversations in my head all day, and nowhere for them to go. I could tell you about driving across country with Eleanor in 1962. The exact shade of red her hair was in Arizona sunset, the morning my son was born. My father's last words, 1,000 stories. But who wants to hear an old man's stories? My kids have heard them. My grandkids don't know me well enough to care. My friends are dealing with their own silence. I used to be interesting. I had a career. I was good at my job. I had hobbies. I built furniture in my garage. I read voraciously. I had opinions about politics and sports and books and movies. I had something to contribute to conversations. Now I'm just old. That's my identity. The old father, the old grandfather, the person you call out of obligation, the person you visit on holidays because you should, not because you want to. Last Christmas they all came. The house was full, kids running, adults talking. I sat in my chair and watched and felt completely alone in a room full of my family. They weren't there for me. They were there because it was Christmas, taking the picture for the card, checking the box. The second they could leave without seeming rude, they did. They left the day after Christmas, and the silence crashed back louder than before because I'd been reminded what it's like when it's not silent. I think I've become afraid of dying, not the death itself. I've lived 85 years. I've had a good run, but dying alone, dying in this silent house with no one here to hold my hand. Dying and maybe nobody finding me for days because nobody calls, nobody stops by, nobody checks. I've read stories about it. Old people found weeks after they died, neighbors noticing the smell, mail piling up. That's what terrifies me, not death. Dying alone and being forgotten until the smell alerts someone. I called my doctor last month, told him I was feeling down. He asked questions. Trouble sleeping? Yes. Appetite problems? Yes. Feel hopeless? Yes, he wrote a prescription for antidepressants. I haven't filled it because I'm not depressed chemically. I'm lonely existentially. There's no pill for that. I went to the grocery store last week, not for groceries, to be around people. I walked slowly up every aisle, took my time selecting tomatoes I didn't need, stood in line behind a young mother with a screaming toddler, and was grateful for the noise. The cashier asked how I was, maybe 20 years old, probably just being polite, but I answered. I said, okay. She smiled and said, that's good, and I wanted to thank her for seeing me, for treating me like a person and not a ghost. I'm becoming invisible. Old people are invisible. Society looks right through us. We shuffle along slowly. We're in the way. We're remnants of a generation that's fading. We're supposed to quietly disappear into nursing homes and silence and eventually death. I don't want to disappear quietly, but I don't know how to stop it. 3 weeks. My phone hasn't rung in 3 weeks, and I'm starting to understand that this is my life now. This silence, this waiting, this slow fade into irrelevance. If you have parents who are still alive, elderly parents, call them. Don't wait for Sunday. Don't wait for obligation. Call them on a random Tuesday at 3 p.m. for no reason except to say, I love you. I was thinking about you. Tell me about your day. Because I promise you, they're sitting in their silent houses, staring at their phones, wondering if today is the day someone will remember they exist, wondering if they matter anymore, wondering if the silence will ever end or if this is just what the rest of life looks like. I'm 85 years old. The silence is getting louder every day, and I'm running out of ways to fill it. My phone is right here next to me, fully charged, ringer on high, ready, waiting, still silent. Don't let your parents become me. Call them, please, before the silence becomes permanent.